Attention. Due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Animal spiders creep and crawl, boys and ghouls having a ball. Frankenstein, Dracula, and even the mummy are sure to end up in somebody's tummy.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Civil Gore podcast, episode 12?
Yes.
Is it 12?
12.
I'm starting to lose track. We're getting on up there now.
Yeah, we just kind of glazed past the whole double digits, and now here we are.
Yep. I am cracking open. Don't get jealous, Brian.
Uh-oh.
This is a LaCroix. Sparkling spring water.
There you go, going with the hard stuff tonight.
Yeah, I'm going with the hard stuff tonight. It's French, I believe.
Well, I went British last week. I guess you can go French this week, right? And actually, I won't say what I'm drinking yet because we'll save it for the beer pairing. But I actually am drinking the beer that we're going to pair with our movie tonight for the first time ever in Civil Gore history. We actually have the beer. I have the beer in hand.
We have absolute proof.
Yes.
That you can get the beer we're suggesting.
Yes, and I took a picture of myself with it right before we went live here, so I'll post that later so everyone can see. Even though, of course, by the time you're hearing this, it will be posted already. But
yeah. Well, let's get right into our first chop. Brian, my backlog roulette method is paying big dividends.
I see. I think you watched, it looks like 5 things here.
Yeah, so I guess that the act of having that thing choose them for me and taking all the guesswork out of it is just really paying off.
Frees up your mental, the mental strain of trying to pick is gone now. You can just watch.
Yeah, and I kind of force myself to watch whatever it picks. It's kind of fun. It's kind of masochistic in a way. I like the not knowing if I'm going to get a good movie or a bad movie.
Look like you hit the lottery pretty good. I think you need to get a real ticket because you got some good ones here.
Yeah, some good. Well, plus my collection is mostly movies I like.
That's true.
So that helps your odds a little bit.
So last time you just were the bad luck day because you got the one movie you probably regret having in your collection.
Yeah, the first one up was remember the Hammer double feature that I bought. And one of those was Revenge of Frankenstein.
Oh, right.
And it was kind of good because I just watched the original Frankenstein not too long ago. And this one's from 1958 and stars the masterful Peter Cushing as Baron Frankenstein. And it's got an interesting premise. Baron Frankenstein is basically put to death by the villagers. And he concocts a scheme whereby they hang another man instead. So he basically fakes his death and continues his practices under the kind of a terrible pseudonym, Dr. Stein.
Wow, he really thought that one up.
Yeah, so
that's like Superman. That's like Clark Kent wearing glasses. It's just
exactly.
to hide that he's Superman. Yeah,
so he resumes his work, and this time instead of making a monster, he learns from his mistakes. In the original Frankenstein, it was this abnormal brain. So this time he makes sure that his specimen is perfect, and the Frankenstein monster actually looks like a normal human being, which was kind of an interesting twist on what you usually see.
Right.
And it continues on there, but I really enjoyed it. It's I guess you could say it's a slow burn, but I kind of think all Frankenstein movies are kind of slow burns because it's not, because there's so much build up. But I really, really, really like this one. And as part of the double feature, I'm really looking forward to The Curse of the Mummy that I think went along with that.
Oh, right. That's on the disc, right? That's the double feature. Oh,
yeah, they were released in the U.S. as double features. And then it was on to possibly, and we may have to do this one at some point, it's possibly my favorite Tobe Hooper movie outside of Texas Chainsaw, and that is The Funhouse.
Yeah, I own that special edition, too, so we definitely do need to do this on one of our upcoming shows, especially since this is kind of like the apology tour of Tobe Hooper that we did. We did Eaten Alive before all his other ones.
Yeah, The Funhouse is it's a really, pardon the pun, it's actually a really fun movie. It's got all the carnival and fairground carny stuff that I love, the sideshow imagery. The characters are actually pretty likable characters, and it's also got the monster element that I really like. The villain in the Funhouse is super cool if you've never seen him.
Yeah.
Like the makeup work and everything.
Yeah, no, it really is a fun. Not to steal your line there, but yeah, it really is a fun movie.
And after that, another fun movie, which I had watched this not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago, for the first time, which was Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, I didn't realize that was you just recently saw it for the first time.
Yeah, for some reason, it's just one of those movies that I just never. I'd seen the box cover a million times over the years. I just, for some reason, had never gotten around to seeing it. So I'd watched it the first time not too long ago and was really freaked out. And anybody who's seen that movie would know why.
Yeah.
But I found that I really enjoyed it even more on the second viewing because when I first saw it, I don't think I was prepared for because it's a low budget kind of film and it's got some really no name actors and stuff. And I guess when I first watched it, I wasn't really prepared for all that. But going back and watching the second time, I realized how brilliant this movie is for the budget and for the level that it's at. Like, it's really, really smart movie.
Yeah, and it's a shame that the sequels, the subsequent, I think they had 3 sequels to it. I mean, just none of them were anything good after this one. So, I mean, it wasn't even close. You know, it's like some of them are at least, some sequels in those series you get some gems in there. But after this one, it was all nothing.
Yeah, so I really like that one. Now, I will say this. I'm not going through, with this backlog project, I'm just doing one section at a time. So I've got everything broken down into movie, commentaries, and extras. So when I hit the roulette machine and it lands on a movie, I do whichever one of those I haven't done yet.
Oh, okay. That's
starting with the movie. So these, I haven't gone through the extras or the commentaries on any of these that I'm listing. I'm just watching the movie. But when their number comes back around again, I'll move on to the commentary.
Oh, see, that's a smart way to do it. That's really, you'll get through them much faster that way.
Yeah, and so I don't get burned out having to watch a movie 3 times in a row. I don't like doing that.
Yeah, especially when you got the one like you got last week.
Yeah, exactly. And the last one I watched was Motel Hell.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, which again is the Scream Factory Collector's Edition or Special Edition. It's Collector's Edition. Yeah, another really fun movie that I actually had not seen for the first time until fairly recently. But that's a really, really fun, good one if you haven't seen that one. Yeah,
did you see actually Amazon Prime? I recently discovered just how many horror movies that they have on there for free, if being a Prime member, and some are just like ridiculous. Like you said, I think last week they just take anything on there. But there was one on there. I think it was called Motel Hell, and it just doesn't. It didn't. I don't think it had anything remotely to do with it. I didn't watch it. I just by the brief description I read, I don't think it had anything to like a similar plot or anything other than it being a lodging of some sort. But
well, the last one I watched was. And I was trying to find something kind of newer to talk about because I'm so knee deep in this backlog project that I don't have time for a lot of newer movies or when I say newer, stuff that you probably have not seen a million times.
Yet you made me get the Phantasm box set last night. We both ordered that.
Yeah. As an aside,
yeah.
we both picked up the Phantasm box set because I saw a post on Facebook from the Shockwaves guys talking about how it was not available at retail or is already starting to be jump in price, like on Amazon from other third-party resellers and stuff.
Oh my God.
And all of a sudden I started panicking because this happened with the Friday the 13th set where I waited and waited until it was unavailable. And then it was too expensive for me to buy after that. So I was determined not to make the same mistake twice. Best Buy still had it in stock at $60. I was like, sold, done. And then I told my wife that she had bought me my anniversary present.
There you go. Fortunately, I bought myself nothing. Well, technically, our anniversary, Julie and our anniversary is coming up in June, so technically that could be my anniversary present.
Yeah. So that should be here Thursday, so I'm sure I'll talk about it more on next week's episode if I have a chance to get through it. But
right after our long soliloquy the last couple of weeks of saying how we try not to double dip, and there I go. I just bought that number one, like the special edition, and now I end up with the whole box set, so I'll have 2 of Phantasm, the original, I guess, but oh well.
So the other thing I watched was something I just ran across on Shudder, and I had to stop and take a look because the name made me laugh, but it's called Dr. Terrible's House of Horrible. And it stars Steve Coogan, and I do mean stars because he plays almost every role, including some of the ladies.
He's pretty talented, so that's got to be funny.
Yeah, it's a 2001 series, so it's not anything recent, but and I'd never heard of it, though. And what it is, it's basically half-hour episodes that parody different Hammer horror movies.
Oh, wow.
From the 70s. So the first episode, I believe, is called Lesbian Vampires of Lust. And so it's exactly what you would expect. And I only watched the first episode, so I don't know if the quality holds up throughout, but I still thought, as a Hammer horror fan, and since it's kind of been on my brain lately, it made me laugh pretty hard. So I'll probably end up watching the rest of those.
Yeah, I'll have to look in. That's on. You said that's on Shudder?
Yeah, that's on. Yeah, Shudder has it.
Oh, cool. Well, I sure watched a lot less than you this week, including our other than our main feature. I watched. Finally got around to seeing The Boy, which came out. It's been on cable. I've had the DVD, the Blu-ray since it came out, but haven't really had the time to sit and watch it. And I finally watched it, and I actually really liked it. It was a little different than I thought, yeah. But so yeah, I mean, I thought it was like it actually held my interest through the whole thing, and it was just I just thought it was a really cool premise. I mean, obviously, I don't want to go into anything for those who haven't seen it, but it's definitely got some great. It's definitely got some Tim jump scares in there, and yep. It's got. I mean, I thought the performances are really well, and I didn't realize how actually attractive Lauren Cohan is. But she wasn't in this movie. I mean, I've seen, I know she's on The Walking Dead. I don't watch the show, so I didn't know much about her.
Brian!
What?
You don't watch The Walking Dead?
Yeah, I know.
I actually knew that. I was just doing that for all the podcast listeners out there.
I know. And actually, you startled me for a split second because I thought something happened with the podcast. We've had some technical difficulties tonight already, which you guys won't know about because we'll edit it out. But so I actually thought something happened again. But so Tim jump scared me as I was talking about jump scares. So well done, Tim. But so she was really good. I thought she did great in that, and I just overall really liked that movie, and I definitely know that if I ever have a son down the road, I am definitely not going to name him Brahms. I'll tell you that.
No, it ruined that name for me.
Yeah, not that was really in the running, but it's definitely not now. The other thing I watched is I was going through, like I said, I was going through the vast library of Amazon Prime's horror movies, and there's some good ones that I want to see, actually, like that one we talked about, the night Evelyn came out of the grave or whatever. That's on there. A couple other ones I wanted to see are on there. There's a ton of Bigfoot ones on there. Tim, you'll be in heaven. I mean, I must have counted 8 or 9 Bigfoot movies.
Oh, I'm going to watch all of them.
Yeah, so, I mean, you'll definitely have your fill of that. But the one I decided to pick was called Blackwater Wilderness. And this, I mean, not to be unkind, but this thing was dreck. I mean, this was just, I mean, the acting was bad. The plot, I mean, there was some cool deaths in it, but just the whole thing was just kind of so, like, badly done. I don't know what it was. It was just, it really was. It was like, and the build up to when finally things started to happen was just so, it seemed so mind-numbingly slow. And I was just like, oh, I mean, it's definitely on the, like I said, the murders when they actually started happening were pretty cool. Kind of gave me that, it reminded me a little bit of, what's that movie? The Wrong Turn. Although it's only one killer out there, not that whole like family of inbred people. It's just one crazy guy. But it was not. I'm actually surprised I made it through the whole thing. I think I was just trying to. I think for the good of the podcast, I figured I might as well watch this whole thing. But it was not not a good choice. So I apologize to the makers of the film, but yeah, no, it was not good.
All right, well, let's move right on to our dismemberment section. Blu-ray releases for May 9th. Kind of a week this week.
Yeah, really.
If that makes any sense. The first one is cult horror movie Brain Damage from 1988.
I could have sworn that thing was on the release list over and over again for the past 2 years. I don't know if it's the same version. I don't know if it's the same version, another version. Who knows? But I swear to God, it seems like I've seen this thing advertised.
Just keep putting different covers on it, hoping people will buy it. I guess, I don't know.
Maybe.
Another one from the 80s, 1985's Making Contact. Original title was Joey. And it's something about Joey's got psychic powers. Directed by Roland Emmerich.
Oh.
That's kind of interesting.
Well, at least it's got some names in it.
Yeah, I have not heard of that one, actually. I'm pretty good on my 80s movies, but I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I kind of remember that. See, I'm kind of confused. I don't know if I remember this movie, or I'm getting it confused with 2010, the year we made contact. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I have a feeling. I'm sure it's a little both. Like, I'm sure I've seen this in a video store or something back in the day. Or
yeah, the cover looks a little familiar.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it later. I have so many things open that between my iPad and my phone to try and for the show. I don't want to move it for that movie of all things.
Next up is probably my ranking for one of the most unnecessary remakes of all time.
I'd have to agree.
Which was Psycho from 1998. Now, I admit I went and saw this in the theater because I'm such a fan of Psycho. It was one of those things where I felt like I had to go see this train wreck for myself. And if you don't know, it is literally a shot-by-shot remake of Psycho.
Yeah, so what was the point?
Yeah, I don't think they actually changed anything other than the actors. I mean, it was literally a shot-by-shot remake. Yeah, it's starring Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates. It was terrible.
Now, I know it's funny because we said in I think it was last episode, we were saying how, some remakes, when they change it too much, but also the other end of the spectrum, don't do it shot-by-shot remake, because what's the point? We'll just watch the original. I mean, you made a step down. Nothing against Vince Vaughn and Anne Heche, but I mean, come on, they're not Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins.
No, and if you want to see a good example of doing something awesome with the Psycho mythos, is watch Bates Motel.
I know. I'm really upset. I never got to watch those things. I'll have to. I think it's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, you should be able to catch up because this last season is the last season period. Because they've kind of caught up to where the movie would take over. So,
okay.
But yeah, definitely really cool take on it. There's some seasons that are a little worse than others. I think there was 4 or 5 seasons, but overall, really, really fantastic show.
Yeah, and actually, they're showing the original, and I think it's this Friday. When the podcast drops, it'll be the same night. I'm gonna try and see if I can go to this thing. They're actually showing the original Psycho and Psycho 2. For that retro picture show in that theater near me. They have a ton of cool events. I need to get to one for sure. And they also have one, I posted it on the Facebook page. They're having one of those pay to get out horror marathons coming up at the end of the summer, which I have to see if I can get to this thing because this seems cool. It's basically $10, and if you basically get through all 12 movies. No, I'm sorry, all 12 hours. You get your $10 back and a breakfast.
Yeah, I would totally be down for that.
Yeah,
no questions asked.
Yeah, I think I may have to go do this. I don't know if I could convince Julie, although she said she'd go, but I have to see. If not, I'm sure I can drag Seth. Seth, if you're listening, which I know you will be by this point, you may be getting. I may be committing you to this thing. So.
Next up, we have Serial Mob from 1994. I know this is more of a comedy, but I included it because it's kind of a dark comedy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that movie with that Parents. Remember that movie Parents with Randy Quaid? It's got a dark comedy. It's kind of like in that vein, I would think, at some level.
Yeah, so I kind of threw that one in there. Tall Men from 2016. This looks like a Slender Man ripoff.
I love how they just go, Tall Man.
Tall Men. They're not they're slender, but we don't call them that. And then American Mummy from 2014, which I'm guessing is being released around the time of the Mummy remake just to capitalize on that whole theatrical release.
And did you see, I don't know if you saw this, but I kind of like, I kind of like if this is what's going on. So I was reading, I think it was in Entertainment Weekly, they were talking about, it was their summer movie preview, and they were talking about the new Mummy with Tom Cruise. And I mean, as much as I love the classic monster things, I didn't know how excited I was for this until now when I read that apparently in that movie, Dr. Jekyll is in that. So they're kind of hinting that they could do kind of like a modern day, like Marvel universe, but a classic monster universe. But I know they're not trying to do it too much in your face, kind of like what DC did, where they just try to rush and catch up to Marvel and throw everybody in all the movies as fast as possible. But I think it's like a hint to see how this one does, to see where they could go from this, and I'm all for that if they can do that. I mean, it won't be the same as the classic Universal ones per se, like that kind of thing. But man, I mean, wouldn't it be kind of cool, a modern day take on that like classic monster universe?
Yeah. Did you watch Penny Dreadful?
No, I heard that's really good though.
Yeah, they do. I mean, that's kind of the same idea. They basically brought in a lot of different horror archetypes, like Frankenstein and Dr. Jekyll and all that stuff in one show. And I kind of envisioned that's how this would be kind of a what do they call that? A shared universe or whatever they call it. Yeah.
I think it would be cool. I mean, I'd be looking forward to see if they do it. I mean, if they do it right, like if they just make it, if this movie's not good, I don't want them to keep just sending out schlock, and like.
Yeah, well, they're already doing that with the King Kong stuff. I mean, that's all connected.
Right.
Godzilla and all that. So.
Yeah, that's good. But that could be okay because that's it seems like they've always been kind of doing that. So it's almost a natural progression because back even the original King Kong movies, it's later on as they blended them with Godzilla and all these other monster stuff. So it's almost like to be expected a little bit for that one as much because it just kind of brings you back like not too back in when they used to do that. So it's a it seems like that's the way things are going now. It's this whole thing. You're going to take the property and just make a whole universe about it. That's like the trend now, apparently.
Yeah, because that's where the money is.
Yeah.
I realize that's where the money is.
Right, because there's so many mediums now. It's not like what it was when you literally just had the movies. Now you have movies, TV shows. You have and you can do it. If you don't think it's going to make too much in the theater, you'll throw it on Netflix or another streaming service. They have, you can do comics. I mean, there's so many ways now to video games. All stuff they didn't have way back in the day. So now it's kind of cool what they could do with it.
Yeah, I'd love to see a Universal horror like rebound and have all these things come back and fight each other and stuff. I'm all down for that.
Yeah. Let's hope that this Mummy will do good, so we can kind of get the start of that.
Yep. Theatrical release. Speaking of theatrical releases, for May 5th, we have two kind of little lesser known films. Another Evil, which looks to be a horror comedy. Actually looks kind of interesting. The summary was, after encountering a ghost in his family's vacation home, Dan, a modern artist, and his wife Merrye hire an industrial grade exorcist.
Industrial grade?
Named Oz to get rid of the beings, but Dan soon realizes that ridding the home of evil won't be as simple as it seems. So that looks like it might be pretty funny. And then we have one called American Exorcism.
I sense a theme.
Yeah.
We got the American Mummy, now we got the American Exorcism.
Which to me, this one kind of looked like, and I'm just totally basing it off the poster, which has a Reagan spider crawl ripoff in front of a tattered American flag.
Oh my god, really?
I do props for the cover art anyway. But
something tells me that's going to be the big best part of this movie, but I could be wrong. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to be capitalizing off the whole exorcism trend. It was like the Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Right. What's the other one? The Last Exorcisms, right?
Yeah.
Series and
kind of looks like those, but worse.
Oh boy. Yeah, and that's another one. If you looked, as I think on the Amazon Prime had a bunch of these exorcism type movies.
Oh yeah.
So, I'm telling you, you'll have a ball just scrolling through the titles for these. I think I had read you some earlier. I don't remember what I said now, but what was one? Oh, the Mills vs. Zombies, I think was one. I don't know about you, but I gotta see that one. I gotta just, even if I don't watch the whole thing, I gotta see how this thing kind of plays out. And what was the other one here? Okay, and the other one was Blood Sisters of Lesbian Sin. So yeah, I don't know what these have got to be at least viewed for a little bit here to see what these are all about. I don't know.
Well, these people are not dumb. They know there's people like me and you out there that will watch a movie based on its title and or cover art alone. So
yeah, and they must be Civil Gore listeners,
Yeah, that's what they're going for.
Yeah. So they know. They said Brian and Tim will at least give this a mention somehow.
We'll at least get two people to watch this piece of crap.
Right.
Well, the deep cut tonight is one I suggested because when I first saw this movie, I ran across it on Shudder and absolutely loved it. And so I suggested it to Brian, and it has been known by many a name.
Yeah, my God, there's a whole history of this. The name alone.
Yeah, the original name was Cannibal Orgy, or The Maddest Story Ever Told, and it was then changed to Spider Baby, or The Maddest Story Ever Told, and finally most people just shorted it to Spider Baby.
And weren't there some other ones? Like I saw it was released in a drive-in simultaneously with 2 different titles, depending on the drive-in you saw too. I mean, this thing is, what was it? Was something like the something Eaters or something, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there was another name for it, and it was actually filmed in 1964, I believe, but not released until 3 years later in 1967.
Yeah, and this before we even go into the whole thing, I was so glad Tim suggested this because I didn't really know what to expect, but I usually trust Tim's judgment because it's been pretty good so far, and I absolutely love this movie. For some reason, the second this thing started, I was just into it, and I love it. And it's actually now possibly one of my favorites I've ever seen. It's just so fun of a movie.
Yeah, it was directed by Jack Hill and written by Jack Hill, and it has some pretty big names starring. It's got Lon Chaney Jr., which, interestingly enough, he's credited just as Lon Chaney in this one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is kind of odd.
Yeah, not sure why, but
and it's also got a very young Sid Haig.
Yes, and he's definitely, and it's funny, I mean, you could tell it's him, but at first sight, I really didn't I knew he was in it somewhere, but I wasn't sure that was him yet. But then
I was really bummed that I'd forgotten that he was in this when I met him at the Mad Monster party, because I totally would have brought this movie up, because I bet he doesn't get, obviously he gets recognized more for Captain Spaulding, and Devil's Rejects and stuff. I think he would have enjoyed somebody calling him out on Spider Baby.
Yeah, did he have any? I guess he didn't have any merchandise either.
No, he didn't have any photos. But man, if I'd seen a photo or something like and I'd remembered all that, I totally would have done that instead.
Yeah, well, maybe next time. I mean, he's one of those guys that seem to appear at these shows quite often. So we'll have to keep an eye out for the next appearance he has, and we'll bring it up.
Yeah. So the summary of this movie is: there's a caretaker played by Lon Chaney Jr., and he's Bruno is his character's name. And he has basically devoted himself to 3 inbred siblings.
Yeah.
we find out.
Yeah.
After their father's death. So he's taking care of these 3. And the 3 are the Merrye siblings, Merrye.
Yeah, that's so weird. Thank God they said Merrye, because I would have said like Merrye or something.
Yeah. So we have Elizabeth Merrye, who was played by Beverly Washburn, who is probably the most normal of the 3,
yeah,
which is not saying much.
Yeah, she just kind of seems like she's just kind of definitely doesn't seem as wacko as the other. I mean, you find out later she truly is, but she definitely at first you're kind of like, okay, maybe she's somewhat normal, but
yeah, she's kind of spacey.
Yeah.
Then you have, I'm gonna skip to Ralph Merrye, who is the boy of the group, and that he's the one played by Sid Haig. Right. Now he's a weird character, and Brian, you said it reminds you of Schlitzie from Freaks.
It does. He does. He's got that bald head, that creepy grin the whole time, and it's like crawling around.
Yeah, he's got the bald head, and he does resemble one of those pinhead type.
Yeah.
Or as they used to call him.
I don't think he's supposed to be a pinhead. He just
No, I don't think he's supposed to. He just kind of gives that vibe. And I mentioned to Brian when he mentioned Schlitzie from Freaks that I'll post pictures of this on Instagram and Twitter and all that. I made a model of. I didn't make the model. I bought a resin model and painted it of Schlitzie from Freaks and gave it to Kevin for Christmas one year. So I'll post some pictures of that. That's pretty cool. And then finally we have the standout, who is Virginia Merrye, who is the Spider Baby of the title.
Yeah, she's you got a picture. She's almost like, kind of like the Harley Quinn of Suicide Squad, or I remember that movie, The Funhouse Massacre, that angel face character, or Baby from House of a Thousand Corpses. She's just one of the characters that kind of takes a hold of the movie.
Yeah, like really pretty and also really crazy.
Yeah.
But she plays the actress who played her is Jill Banner. And she kind of had a tragic life. She died in 1982 in a car accident at the age of 35.
Yeah, and I guess at the time she was she was actually living with Marlon Brando, and she was doing scripts for him, I guess, with stuff. So she was still kind of in Hollywood at the time, but I don't think she was acting still then. She kind of just went off to a different path. But even though with Amazing, the way she started her career with that, you figure she should have had any role. But I don't think at the time roles like that were considered, heralded as a great performance. But I don't think it would have been, like, if this was today, she would have been signed on to 600 movies instantly, probably because of this performance.
Yeah, well, her performance was so good that after I watched this movie, like, I instantly went to look her up.
Yeah, same here.
To see where she was and, what else I could find her in. And then that's when I learned that she had died so young, which was a shame. But she was young in this movie. She was only, 17?
Yeah, so, and she actually, it's part of the, I won't go into too much detail about it, because it ends up being a part of our trivia later, but this part's not. But she actually had, she lied about her age to get the role. And especially now that you find out she actually is 17, kind of makes some of the scenes even creepier that happen in this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Which we'll get to, because she didn't look 17. She looked young, but I would have thought she was at least, maybe 20, 21.
Yeah, yeah.
But so she's definitely, and she was so good in it, you figure she definitely has the presence of someone that's a little older, so.
This is considered a horror comedy. I wouldn't say it's very heavy on the comedy though. It's a very subtle, maybe a very subtle comedy.
Yet there are some gags in here that kind of almost break that fourth wall a little bit with some, that stuff that back then I don't think they did these kind of jokes.
Yeah, but what you find out in the opening song is sung by Lon Chaney Jr. himself, with some really oddball lyrics, and I'll probably put a little clip of it at the front of the show, which you may have already heard, and there's like these funny cartoon animations going on. Like, they were popular in the 60s, those cartoon openers, which I love.
Just like a Pink Panther kind of animation.
Yeah, like the Pink Panther. Like. Yeah, so it had this really, and it kind of sets the tone for the movie, which actually still looks really good for its age.
It does. It's the quality. I mean, I watched it on Shudder on my iPad, and it was really, like, pretty clear of a movie. Like, it didn't have any, like, that pops and distortions that sometimes those older movies have. It was really good. It looked like they had filmed it much later and just made it black and white.
Yeah, which is amazing because of the history of this movie. It was actually lost for a long time. Or it was considered a lost movie in the 90s.
Probably because I couldn't find out what title it was.
Yeah,
many titles.
It was only available for a long time in like really crappy VHS quality copies, or VHS copies, and somebody finally found the original print that they made the Laserdisc from, and was able to use that to then go on and master the DVDs.
Yeah, and I just actually, I was telling Tim today, I ordered it on Blu-ray. I saw they had only a handful left on Amazon, and now that I'm in that mode of, oh my god, if it gets sold, who knows if it'll ever come back mode, I jumped on it and got it. It wasn't bad. I think it was like $24 when it came to with the tax. So, and it's the Blu-ray. It's a Blu-ray DVD combo. I don't know how much. I couldn't see if there's any special features on it. I do know that the DVD that they're selling on Amazon from like the other sellers it was around $60. I think that had a little documentary on it, like a making of. I don't know if this Blu-ray has on it, but as soon as I get it, I'll mention it on next week's show, because I think it's supposed to arrive on Wednesday. So I'll go through it and see if it has. I hope so.
So we start off with a normal-looking guy kind of talking to the audience and sitting in a chair, sort of like of our, I don't know, Masterpiece Theater.
Yeah, he did. At first I wasn't even sure he was talking to us.
Yeah.
But yeah, then he is.
He's got a book of rare and peculiar diseases, and he's basically our storyteller. So he tells us about the Merrye clan, and they actually have a disease named after him called Merrye syndrome.
Yeah, that's when you know your family's in trouble.
Yeah, so it's supposedly this rare genetic condition that starts in early puberty that causes them to regress mentally, socially, and physically down the evolutionary ladder.
Doesn't he say at one point, it's like beyond like the like it goes almost like backwards before or something.
Yeah.
I forgot the term he uses, but it gets so it could regret if they live long enough. It could regress to the point of, I guess, before birth or whatever it was or something.
Yeah, it was a really bizarre.
Yeah, it was kind of
opener.
Yeah.
But we're introduced to a delivery man who's looking for the Merrye house to deliver a package or an envelope, and he comes across two kids playing and asks them, if you know where the house is for the Merrye clan. And you can tell that the townspeople kind of avoid this place.
Yeah, they don't even like the mother kind of implies that, and it's obviously a lie the way she acts, but she's saying, "Oh, I never heard of it. I don't think this place exists."
So the Merrye clan lives in this old rotting house, and he pulls up and says, "Anybody home? Anybody home? Please say yes."
Yeah, that guy, the way he says it is so funny.
It's funny.
It's like I don't know why I didn't expect him to be like, because he seemed so calm, like when he was talking to the other to the other family, and then he's like, "Please say yes." It's like
he makes the mistake of leaning into this open window to see if anybody's see if anybody's home, and the window slams down, and we are first introduced to Virginia, who is excited that she's caught a bug, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And she actually throws a net over him, and she has these two knives that she uses to sting her bugs with. And that's how we're first introduced to Spider Baby.
Yeah, and I don't think they actually ever called her Spider Baby in it, but she's
they
definitely
don't.
the Spider Baby, because she thinks she's a spider. She's obsessed with spiders. And yeah.
Which is a really cool concept. Like, I love that whole thing. I thought that was a really cool, like, psychological concept.
Yeah, and that's creepy when she comes out with the knives going,
Yeah, she cuts his ear off.
Yeah, and at one point you just see her like hacking. I think then you just see the ear fly up.
Yeah, so that's when we're introduced to Elizabeth, who comes in and kind of scolds her, like, not another one.
Yeah, so this is not the first time, apparently.
Not the first time Spider Baby's caught a bug.
Yeah.
And then we're introduced to Lon Chaney as the chauffeur Bruno. He was taking Ralph to the doctor, and like we mentioned, Ralph looks really super creepy. Again, I wouldn't recognize him as Sid Haig unless I knew it.
Yeah, and it was so funny, like Virginia gets so excited when Ralph's there, to the point where she's like barking. She's like, "Ralph, Ralph, Ralph!" I mean, I was like, wow, okay, what is coming out here? I thought, is it a dog? I don't know. Yeah. And then out comes like Sid Haig as Schlitzie,
So, of course, Bruno discovers, what Virginia has done, and Lon Chaney Jr. just has that hound dog face expression that you just feel so much compassion and sympathy for him. Like, he just seems like such a nice guy, but he's just so disappointed that they've hacked up another.
Yeah, I know. He's
another
like,
delivery guy.
It's like, how am I going to get my mail?
Yeah, so he opens the package, and it turns out that some distant relatives are coming later that day with a lawyer and want to be the children's legal guardians, Uncle Peter and Aunt Emily.
Which seemed kind of strange, with the fact that this family history, and all of a sudden these, you just assume that they don't know really what's going on at this house.
Right.
You just assume that, which you soon find out shortly. But, Bruno kind of finds, after he finds a dead guy, he said, he tries to tell the girls, what they did was wrong, and he tells Virginia not to stop playing Spider, which is kind of funny, because it's like, to her, literally, I remember, they're regressing, so to her, it is a game. She doesn't know any better. You could obviously tell that she thinks it's all a game.
Right, all three of these act very childlike, even though they're, even in Virginia's case, even at 17, she acts quite a bit younger than her age.
Right. You think, but then, as you find out, she's still got, elements to where she shows her age, and not, it's very bizarre, but that's what's so good about her performance, I think, because she's so good. But anyway, I think I kind of went back a little bit. Yeah, so they get so they do get this telegram that, this lawyer and the relatives are coming to become their legal guardian. So Bruno's worried about this because, obviously, this is not the greatest setting for other people to come into. So he kind of tells the kids, he said, listen, these people are coming. You kind of need to keep secrets, basically, like the whole thing that's going on in this house. It needs to be kept quiet. So they go to this, it's almost like a little montage where you see Ralph hiding the motorcycle. And then you see Bruno's hiding the dead body. He's just dragging the body. And the girls are, mopping up the blood. In typical sister fashion, they're like, They're annoying each other, and I think like Elizabeth actually swings the mop right at Virginia's head, and she ducks, and then but Virginia keeps the ear that she lopped off and puts it in a box.
Oh yeah,
which was just it was so funny, but it's very appropriate. And then you kind of see that Bruno goes down. I guess there's a secret door that leads to this basement where supposedly Uncle Ned. And they named two other aunts. I forgot Martha, I think was one. I forgot the other one. Are staying. So apparently there's more people in this house than you see. But then we see that Peter and Emily arrive, which is I guess their brother and sister. And you realize Peter is the storyteller from the beginning. So you recognize him. And so Emily decides, I guess they pull up and they see the house. So she goes up to investigate to see if they're home. And she's looking she goes kind of near that window trap, and then Ralph pops out, and I don't know why, this just cracked me up, and he just goes like
he does a lot of that hanging upside down in the window trick, which is hilarious.
And he plays it, as Captain Spaulding, over, heavier guy, he's out of shape, he's older. In this, he's all skinny and scrawny, and does a lot of physical creepiness that he couldn't do when he was older. So he just does that, and she freaks out and runs down back to the car. And then it kind of cuts to, you see Bruno driving back with their lawyer, which got to be this name has got to be so intentionally made so funny, Mr. Schlocker, and his secretary, Miss Morris, and they're basically he's driving the lawyer and his secretary towards the house, and Bruno's trying to describe the kids. And he uses a term which would never fly in movie today. He just says, well, you might know them as somewhat retarded, and so just to use that out, you definitely can see the time period of this movie, that it's so flippantly said like that. And so Schlocker's like, well, the kids could just go to an institution, and Bruno tells him, I said, listen, the kids should be fine while you're there, but they could become wild if they are provoked. So there's a little bit of foreshadowing there, which... When you see these kids, I don't think it takes much provoking.
No.
So everyone eventually gets back into the house, and all of a sudden Ralph pops up through the dumbwaiter that they have, which is a huge tool in this movie. It's used about at least another 5 or 6 times, I think.
I love dumbwaiters.
Yeah, me too. I think it's really cool, and in this they use it like the perfect way. They have so many like creepy scenes with it, and sometimes subtle creepy scenes with it in the background of it. And it's just really cool the way they use this. And you find a little bit more backstory to Bruno. How he says, he gave the girl's father an oath that he would watch over them always, as we mentioned earlier. But he also said that they would never be subjected to public scrutiny, which is why he does not want them going to an institution, because obviously this condition would be so obscure that it would be all over the place. In newspapers or whatever was, I guess,
and you can tell time. He really, really loves and cares for these kids.
Oh yeah, he does. And I guess he's one of the. I guess the father was just. I don't know. Maybe the family was just always so good to him, and he just felt he had a. Yeah, you could just tell they were like his heart was huge, and he just wanted to always take care of this group. So and I guess he was trying to still describe this condition to the relatives and the lawyer, and he basically says they kind of have rotting of the brain, and that it's a result of inbreeding. They kind of find out there how... Because you figure, you're like, you would think they would stop procreating at this point if this is a long chain of things, but you obviously find out that it's through inbreeding, so they, they're... As Jeff Goldblum says, life finds a way. That was a terrible Jeff Goldblum impression. I'm sorry, I usually can do that better, but I wasn't prepared for it, and it kind of spurred the moment. So I apologize for that terrible Jeff Goldblum. I'll work on that later. But... So, and then Schlocker goes, here's another clue to what's kind of, I guess, the other people there. He says, well, where is Nedrick, or whatever his name is, which we assume is the Uncle Ned they were talking about earlier. And they kind of brush it off, kind of distract him, and then they move on. So, they kind of just impose on Bruno and the kids, basically saying that they're going to stay the night. And Bruno's like, oh, no, you can't, we're not set up for this, and stuff, but basically they kind of get, what was the line that Aunt uses, like, oh, it's funny, I think they're misunderstanding who the guest is here, basically, as they're trying to like literally take over this house and whatever.
Yeah, she's sort of implying like, we are taking over and you're the guest now. Kind of thing.
Like this is our house. So yeah, it was really, really kind of obscure. So poor Bruno was like, now he kind of ends up getting not only sucked into having all these house guests, but now he's got to provide this meal for them.
And what a meal it is.
Oh, it is. And they kind of show it. So they kind of have these random scenes where they see Virginia playing Spider outside, where she's just kind of crawling on the ground and this creepy. But it's like there's a kid-like quality to it. Really kid-like quality. Like a little kid would play outside. That's kind of what she's doing. And then you see Ralph stalking this cat, and he kind of pounces on it. And then it cuts. So we don't know what happened to the cat until a little bit later. And then we see that Virginia also, into her love of spiders, actually has a pet tarantula, which we think is just one, but a second one comes out, and she obviously named that too and thought it disappeared, which kind of is another little bit of foreshadowing to say there's multiple tarantulas in this house. So they all sit down to dinner, and they bring out this creepy cooked carcass thing, which got, it's so funny because Peter through this whole thing is so positive and so happy through it all. Like he just doesn't. He's so oblivious to all the strangeness. Guys, he goes, it's a rabbit. This looks delicious,
And he's trying to be a nice guest.
Yeah, he is, and he's and his sister's obviously like the snotty one and being as rude as can be. So they sit down, and obviously the audience knows that this is this cat that Ralph took. So Bruno kind of tells the group that they have a very austere diet. I think I spelled that right.
Yeah.
And that they're vegetarians, and they said mainly because the kid's father was concerned that eating meat would lead to craving flesh, considering the condition they had. Seems like a smart move.
Yeah.
So, plus for it's better, I guess, the health reasons. Eating all the vegetarian stuff, and Ralph. It's funny. Right after they say that, Ralph starts just gnawing on this big piece of the cat that they caught, and so I think was it Peter that says, he goes, well, is it Ralph a vegetarian too? And they said, yeah, but he eats what he catches.
Yeah.
So he's allowed to eat what he catches. That's his reward.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so the whole time, it's so funny. Like we said, Peter's just being a good house guy. He's all jovial. He's helping serving the food and stuff, and while not so subtly flirting with Miss Morris, who, and then they start talking. Here's the first one scene where I kind of mentioned they kind of almost break that fourth wall, where they're discussing their love of horror movies, and they go through it, and he goes, and he says, oh, what about the Wolfman? And he goes, oh, I love that one or something. And then they cut to Lon Chaney, who obviously played the Wolfman. And he says, what's he say, like, there's going to be a full moon tonight.
Yeah, he recites one of his favorite lines from the Wolfman, which made me laugh out loud when I first saw it.
Yeah, and that's I love that because I don't think movies did that at that time. That's seems like something that was almost reserved for like the airplane films, later, or something. It was cool to see it way back then, to do a joke like that. So, and then throughout the dinner, it just gets creepier and creepier. Like Virginia starts eating like a plate of live bugs. I guess.
Yeah, it was like one point the guy reaches to grab some, and he's like, "Oh no, you don't want to eat that."
Yeah, he was so into serving and being a good guest that he almost literally eats a plate of bugs. And I guess there's some kind of mushroom that they're eating too.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's so funny because Emily, who's being rude and everything, just. She asks, I guess she asked for something to eat, and like, you could eat a salad, and Virginia just literally plops like a big pile of dead grass on her plate. and I like, literally, she plops it, like, no subtlety, just plop. And, but she doesn't eat anything. She just rips up a bag of chips, I guess, she pulls out, because she's starving at this point, won't eat anything that's on her plate. So they somehow get through the dinner. And they realize that the room arrangements really aren't... Which are kind of funny. It's this massive house, yet they have 2 rooms, apparently. Yeah. But they realize that someone's going to need to go to a motel. So Peter and Miss Morris decide to go to the nearby hotel. How convenient. They've been flirting the whole time. And but Emily still thinks that the whole situation is a big phony setup to kind of cheat them out of the money they think they deserve, or whatever, the house that they deserve. So they're starting to get ready for bed and everything, and the girls say, oh, we're going to go kiss Daddy goodnight. Now, all of a sudden obviously they've alluded that the father is dead, but they go to kiss him goodnight, and he's literally a skeleton in pajamas.
Yeah.
So it's got a little psycho thing going on there.
Yeah, this is where I kept, even though it has nothing to do with this movie, I still kept getting this Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe from the whole thing.
No, you're right, and you said that before I watched it, and you were dead on with that.
Yeah, there's just this tone of this crazy, weird family hiding all these secrets. It kind of has the same feel to it.
Yeah, and it's true, and there's the dinner scene, it's like, just like that. So yeah, there's a lot of like crazy, like it's a lot of similarities. I mean, I'm sure there was some. Who knows? There may have been an homage to that somehow in there, but because when did Texas Chainsaw Massacre come out?
74.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure that there had to be, even whether it was subconscious or not, there's some kind of similarities to that may have been, intentional. So, and Emily gets her own room somehow in this, supposedly in a whole thing where they're running out of space. She gets this whole big suite to herself, and when she goes in there, Schlocker decides to start snooping around, because based on her opinion, it's all a hoax. So he goes snooping around trying to find clues, I guess. He walks in this one room with like a stuffed owl, and then he sees another owl, and that one turns out to be alive. Which I was like, what the heck's going on? It's like, and then there's a whole bunch of rats crawling around. So, obviously he's just, it's almost like walking into like this house of traps all over the place of weird oddities. You almost think of it like that, those Ripley, not the Ripley, Believe It or Not. What's that other one? You always see with it, that House of Oddities or something.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what it almost seems like, a live version of that for this guy. And then, in a weird scene, I thought was, because it's so out of character for her, I guess, Emily starts to, she gets, disrobes into this, and starts trying on these like, I guess a Fredericks of Hollywood type of outfit, right? I mean,
yeah.
Where did they come from? Who had that in the house?
I don't know. It was very strange.
And at the time, it seemed like a pretty risque scene, I think, right?
Yeah, I think that was their attempt to put in a little titillation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you know what? I mean, she had a good body. I mean, she was attractive, and she's basically wearing this sheer outfit, dancing around and stuff like that. And then if for a second you forgot what movie you're in, we cut to seeing Ralph literally climb out the top of the house and crawl down the side wall and start to peer into the room where she's doing this dance. And I think Ralph's starting to, like, I guess his carnal instinct is taking over, and he's getting aroused at some level of this, and so he's staring. And then we go back to Schlocker, who's still looking around, and he discovers the ear in the box, but it doesn't seem like that bothers him. Like, he seems almost to expect it in the house by this point. But then also Bruno comes in and kind of interrupts him, so he kind of hides because he doesn't want Bruno to see him searching around. And then Bruno goes to lock the gates closed, which I always thought, now, what do you think of this? I thought he did that intentionally to make sure that they don't get out.
Yeah, I kind of had the same feeling.
Right? Like, I think Bruno thought, like, okay, like, listen, no matter what happens, these people are not going to get out without the situation here leaking out, so they're either going to stay until they promise or something, or they just don't get out. That's kind of how I took from that. I could be wrong, but... No,
I think, as a caretaker, I think his number one priority is to keep the siblings and the Merrye clan safe.
Right.
Whatever it takes.
Right, yeah, I don't think he, like... Yeah, I mean, his heart's in the right place, but I in terms of protecting them, and you're right, I think he'll do anything to make that happen, whether how morally wrong it is.
Right.
So Schlocker's still going around here, and every time I write that name, I must have wrote Schlocker about 30 times in this rundown, and every time I'm cracking up. But he stumbles upon the hidden basement passage, and he heads down, and while he's down, all of a sudden these arms come out and grab him from the floor, and so as he tries to step away, he looks up and he sees the sisters come down there, and they know he's up to no good, and that he's going to tell what's going on there, and so they attack Schlocker. And this, I guess he's, at that point, I forgot, they just kind of hack him up, I think, right? She goes down with Virginia goes down with the knives, I think she has.
With her stingers.
Yeah, with the stingers. And which I love that. It's almost like a weird, deranged cuteness she has when she does that. It's like, because it's kid quality, but it's so creepy at the same time. So I can't believe I wrote this in a note, but I'm going to read it the way I wrote it. I said, Bruno comes back and sees the dead Schlocker. and he's getting pulled up by the dumbwaiter. Once again, they use that dumbwaiter because I guess they're too lazy to carry him up the right way. So he goes going up the dumbwaiter, and so Bruno at this point, I think he realizes, you know what? He basically says that he knew this day would come, and even if they killed this Schlocker, as he puts it, there'll always be more Schlockers. Which Lon Chaney delivers with such true seriousness.
Yeah, he's great. By the way, he's terrific in this movie.
He is. If you didn't love him for his other stuff, you'll love him for this movie because he's so perfect for this role. And so I think he kind of like realizes that this is what's going to happen, and so he tells the girls that he needs to leave for a bit, but he's going to bring them back something special to play with that night. So he leaves, and so then the girls see Emily, I guess, who comes down there because I guess she's looking and she sees the dead Schlocker, and I think this is where I think I kind of might have had this out of order, but is this where she goes like Schlocker? She screams. Because the name Schlocker is said so many times in this movie. It really is quite humorous.
It's a great name, though.
It is. But the girls see her, and then they decide to go chase her out of the house because she's going to tell now, obviously. And then they're out there chasing her in the grounds of the house, and Ralph kind of catches up to her and kind of pounces on her. But I couldn't tell if he went to eat her or he humped her. I couldn't tell what happened.
Maybe both.
I think he might have been both. Because remember, he is aroused now. He's got this like carnal instinct that has no morals to him at this point, and it's all kind of like just by pure instinct. There's no thought process. So you're right. He probably did do both. And so we cut back to Peter and Miss Morris, who never seemed to make it to the hotel because they went out drinking. And I guess they realized now that the hotel was too far away to get to. So they realize they have to come back and stay at the Merrye house. So they're going back there, and the funny thing is the girls they really like Peter because he was so friendly and he was good to them, treating them nice. They don't have anything against him, but I don't think they like the fact that he's kind of got this. I mean, they say they like Miss Morris, but I think they have a little almost like a weird twisted jealousy. I took it, and so they kind of take her, they say they'll take her to the room. And it's so funny. This is where I think Elizabeth, her creepiness comes out, where she keeps saying, pretty lady, pretty lady. And she keeps calling her pretty lady, even though she knows her name. But she calls her that. And I guess they decide they have to do something with her. So they start taking her down through the dumbwaiter, down to the basement. And Virginia decides to play Spider with Peter. And this scene... definitely a scene which I'm surprised did not. I don't know if there was any. Was there the MPAA at the time? I don't know what, but
I don't know.
This scene was really awkward because now she begins to play Spider with him normally. She ties him up, but then literally like hops into his lap and starts like almost definitely a seducing element to where she literally pulls her nightgown up and kind of and starts to really, and you could tell he's getting like, okay, this is beyond playing Spider here. This is getting really weird. And if you think about it, it's incestuous because it's her uncle, and much older than her, and it's even weirder because she's got the supposedly the mental mentality of what I guess a 12, 13-year-old or something.
Yeah, it plays out creepily, especially when you know how old she was in the movie, and then her childlike manner throughout the rest of the movie. Yeah,
so it's really it plays for what it's supposed to be, really uncomfortable and unsettling. So as this is going on, he's saying, okay, I think we should play another game now. But at some level, I don't know. It's like I don't think I think he's trying to still be like nice to her. He's still caring at some level. I took it, I guess. But, he obviously could have just done things differently, but oh well. So, and then they see Ralph won't let go of poor Miss Morris now, and she keeps trying to squirming to get away. So, I guess Virginia hears this and goes down to help, and they decide that, her and Elizabeth decide that they need to cut one of her legs off so she stops squirming so Ralph can play with her, whatever he wants to do with her, God knows what. And so while this is going on, Peter realizes he needs escape. He hears all the ruckus downstairs. He knows something's not right anymore. And he's trying to reach for this table. And then it's funny. I love this movie, but I'm not a big fan of spiders. And you see these 4 tarantulas crawl out. And I'm like, okay, that would freak me out. I mean, I think I could deal with the people. The 4 tarantulas crawling out was very unsettling to me. So these things crawl out, and it keeps cutting back and forth. But then all of a sudden, they cut to Emily coming out, and she's now seems to be aroused and is calling for Ralph, saying, "Ralph, where are you?" So, I mean, I assume that I guess you could transfer whatever this condition is. I mean, I don't know if you seem pretty quick to transfer it to her, unless it was like that whole zombie principle where he bit her or something. What did you take out of that?
But the thing is genetic,
right?
Which tends to imply that it cannot be transferred,
right? So what? I mean, I guess she's technically, since she's a family member, it's somewhere in there. So what was her deal?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they ever really explained that. So I guess she goes off looking for him, and then at this point, she comes in and she now attacks Ralph, and she finds him, and but then at this point Bruno's arriving back, and he says, "Okay," he brings the girl their surprise, which turns out to be a bundle of dynamite.
What a guy!
Whatever. I think he actually called it a toy at one point, right earlier in the movie, because I get your special toy to play with or whatever to play with. So at this point, you know what's going on. This is where he realizes that this needs to end, and there's no way he's going to prevent them from being discovered if this doesn't happen. So at this point, Emily is, I guess, downstairs still with Ralph, and all of a sudden she gets dragged into the floor by Uncle Ned and the 2 other aunts. So you finally at this point, if you didn't realize there were people living down in the basement that were much worse off than the family we see, now. So they're pulling him down, and then Peter at this point escapes the chair and goes tumbling down the stairs. He grabs Miss Morris, and they start to go running out of the house, and Bruno's, urging him on. He's like, "Look, get out, get out." And this is in the scene where it's like, again, the 4th wall on the verge of being broken. The uncles and aunts crawl out of the floor, and the uncle almost looks exactly like the Wolfman, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I caught that as well.
Yeah, and literally they cut to Lon Chaney, who does like a shrug, like, "Well," which was awesome. And then, boom, the house blows up. So we cut back to now Uncle Peter, back as his storytelling role, and he states that now, as he was the only living heir, he inherited the wealth of the Merryes, which was quite considerable. And I want to know how. What career did they have with that kind of condition?
Sideshow?
I guess. Maybe Schlitzie impersonator. Yeah, but somewhere they made a lot of money along the way there. So, and you see he's happily married to his fling in the movie, Miss Morris, and they have a daughter. And he kind of explains that the curse ended, and since his section of the family was far removed, they didn't carry the genes causing the condition. So it seems like he has a daughter, and his daughter goes to play outside. And as she's outside, she sees a spider and has this very similar look to our friend Virginia. And she starts staring at a spider kind of moving around, and it kind of zooms in on her, and then the end. And then a question mark pops up.
Yeah, the famous end. The end question mark?
Yes.
Ending.
So, yeah, so, once you saw the girl go outside, you kind of expected that was going to happen, but I still loved it anyway. Yeah, so I just got to tell you, it's great. I don't know if I did it justice, how fun this movie is to watch and how great it is. But I can't recommend it more. This was so good. Like I said, it jumped up to one of my favorite horror movies.
It's one of those rare movies that I instantly loved the first time I saw it, and watching it the second time, I loved it even more. So it's one of those movies that has so many little subtleties here and there that you'll catch up on as you watch it again and again. That will endear it to you. The more you watch it. So I think that's why it's kind of a cult film these days.
Yeah, and it actually got, it had such, a unique history to it, like with all the name changes and how it was lost, and They actually, there was at one point a musical based on it.
Mm-hmm.
There was an attempted remake, and actually there is an official website that they came out with years later that gives you a lot of like cool, so as almost if the movie was just out, like, but it's still done in the same style where every time you click on it, it's kind of like that animation, like the cartoonish thing. When it's if you want to go look at it, it's www.spiderbabyonline.com, and it has like a clip of that making of. It has a history, it has a character, character bios. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool website.
Yeah, which I love the fact that a movie this old has a website still because of its cult classic status kind of thing, and I thought that was really cool. So yeah, so it's just, and I was funny as I was seeing this. I said, oh, this movie is totally just primed for a remake. Not that I would ever want the original was so good, but I could just see them doing a remake. And actually, there was an attempt of it, and actually a sequel kind of planned. I saw where I guess it took place on the honeymoon of Peter and Miss Morris. I saw, but it never. He wrote the treatment to it, but it never came out. So fortunately, we the Spider Baby is all the original is what we have, but it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick this disc up at some point because I really want to own this movie. It's one of those that I could see myself watching over and over.
Yeah, well, you should definitely. I would check. Amazon has it right now. I think it's $22.95 before the tax. And as I bought it, it was said at 5 left, and now with mine, it's 4 left. So, so you may want to jump on that because I can't see this being as popular in cult status as it is. I don't know if they're going to really release another edition of this on Blu-ray anytime soon, and if they're even going to reprint what they have, So yeah, you may want to check it out and see if you can pick it up before it goes away, because I don't, like I said, this is one of those gems that I'm so glad I discovered it. Well, thanks to you, of course, but because I just love this movie so much.
So tell us about the beer pairing, because I'm excited about this one because you actually have one.
Yeah, so this is funny. I actually knew of this beer long before I knew of this movie. It's a local beer from Long Island, and appropriately named for this movie. The brewery is named Spider Bite Beer Company. So if they're ever, I think so far this is the winner for best beer pairing for a movie that we've done.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Yeah. So, and the one I have particularly it's a Russian Imperial Stout, and it's called Boris the Spider. And the reason I picked this one was specifically out of the choices that they have, and I am drinking it. Like I said, I went by my local beverage place to purposely pick one up for this podcast, is because Virginia especially at one point had pet spiders that she named. I forgot the names right now, but I thought this would be the perfect one that it had. Boris the Spider, and the artwork is kind of cool. It's like a spider there, and he's got out of 2 of his arms, or legs, he's got a beer in each hand. So it's kind of a cool thing. So I'll post a picture of the artwork on it, and I definitely want to check out this brewery because it's on Long Island, and I used to live actually in Holbrook, Long Island, and that's where it is. So I'm definitely gonna go visit this brewery. But they have they have typical things. They have an IPA, which we've had in the past, but this one is pretty good. I got to tell you, it's actually 10% alcohol.
Wow.
Yeah,
that one will bite you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, this has already got a little nipple. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. This is. What am I thinking? Yeah. This has already got a big nibble on me, as I'm definitely feeling this. And it's funny. I just noticed on the artwork in the spider, kind of where the spider's brain would be, there's a little hop.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah. So I may have to bring this. Maybe I'll pick up one of these, Tim, for you, and I'll bring this. With the other beers I have put aside for you. See, Tim and I have whenever we do our meetups for our coaster groups, we tend to have beer exchanges where we'll bring local beers from our area. So I already got Tim a good one, but I think I'm gonna have to pick up one of these for him. Oh, and that Puff Cloudy IPA from 6 Point. I know you love that brewery. They just came out with their release. Every year they come out with Puff for over the summer, so they just came out with it again for this summer. So I'll have to bring you one of those too.
Cool. Yeah, I can't wait.
So Spider Bite Beer Company, Boris the Spider is our beer pairing tonight. And actually, it's kind of almost like a brewery pairing, similar to our Maximum Overdrive episode.
Yeah. And what's our trivia question?
So this one actually might be difficult because I did not find this on IMDb. I'm not going to tell you where I found this. I had to do a little digging for this trivia question. But as we mentioned before, it's Jill Banner is the actress. She lied about her age to get the role of Virginia. But she actually also changed her name, as, you know, actresses and actresses tend to do. But so basically, what was her real name? So it's a little bit tricky because most of the time, everything you see about her is Jill Banner. So, but I did some digging through the magic of the internet, and I found what her real name is. So I thought that'd be a good trivia question for tonight.
Yeah, I like that one. And Brian, you had a line mentioned in the rundown that I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, Tim and I are going to go back and forth with funny lines that we could incorporate into our podcast. But I think I found one that and our good friend Schlocker has said this in the movie. He says, "This has gone well beyond the boundaries of good taste." And I told Tim, I said, that sounds a lot like our podcast.
Yeah, so I had a line also said by Bruno where he says, "Just because something isn't good doesn't mean it's bad."
Yeah.
So I thought, maybe, man, he's been listening to Civil Gore.
Yeah, he definitely. He must. So, yeah, and this movie has a lot of great little quotes like that. I know usually when we do a movie, we usually kind of tell a lot, but this movie was so good on its own without even having to resort to the great quotes. We'll let you discover that one on yourself. And I definitely recommend you wholeheartedly while it's on Shudder. And if for those of you who have not been listening to this podcast, let us tell you, we love Shudder. Shudder is awesome. And Shudder is one of the best things that could happen to horror movie fans because it literally, as Tim described it when he first told me about it, it's a Netflix of horror. So, and you find hidden gems like this all the time. I mean, this is how we discovered to watch Blood Diner, and Tim thought this would be a great movie for this, and it is. And now it's one of my favorite movies. So thank you, Shudder, again. And so, but I really do think you guys need to watch this movie. Those of you who have Shudder, and you know what? Even if you don't, you know what? They have a free trial for a month, so go get it and watch this movie a bunch of times.
Shudder, please send us free stuff for mentioning your service on almost every episode.
Yes, I don't think we've gone one without saying the joys of Shudder. So.
Oh, and big news as we get into our social media wrap up. So obviously you can find us on Facebook.com/Civil Gore Podcast, Twitter @Civil Gore Pod, Gmail @civilgorepodcast@gmail.com. We are now on YouTube, and you just have to search Civil Gore Podcast. Our episodes will come up. The reason you have to search is because we don't have a custom URL yet, because YouTube demands that you have 100 subscribers for 30 days before you get a custom URL. So if you guys really want to help us out, even if you don't listen to the podcast on YouTube, just go subscribe to the channel. And that'll help bump our numbers up so that we can get that custom URL to make us easier to find.
Yeah, and it's also great. It's an easy way to listen to the old episodes.
Yeah, we have all of our old episodes posted. We'll have the newly released episode we'll publish to YouTube at the same time that it hits the podcast services.
Yeah, great job by Libsyn setting that up to have a setting for that. That's great.
Yeah, super, super easy. So, and more people listen to their podcast on YouTube these days, as I've discovered. So
yeah, I've noticed that. So yeah, I think it's just I don't know what the reason is for it, but just some people. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people. Like I know of. Someone was telling me that they listen to most of their podcasts on YouTube. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I put a picture of our logo up there so you didn't have to look at me and Brian's ugly faces.
Yeah. I mean, I know you've seen it somewhat. We've kind of, you've actually seen me. Well, no, actually, they've seen us a lot in all our con pictures, that we've posted. But, maybe they don't know who's who. Maybe they think, Tom Savini is one of us. Who knows? I mean, then again, the D. Wallace one kind of gives it away.
All right, well, I guess that'll do it for episode 12.
Yes.
And we'll see you back next week. By the way, we hit a very big milestone in our downloads.
Oh, right.
This week that I was very proud of, and we are going to have a contest soon that we mentioned on last episode. I think we're going to hold off to that till we get our theme park trips out of the way. Yeah. But we will have news on that sometime in June. So be looking forward to that.
Yeah, and it's a very easy criteria. It's stuff that hopefully you'll be doing already, most of it, and so it'll be fun. And We're trying to come up with the type of prize right now, but it will be a good one. It's not going to be like a Spider Baby sticker or something. It'll be something.
Yeah, it'll be substantial.
Yeah.
And even though we haven't announced the contest yet, you can actually enter now just by posting an iTunes review. You give us an iTunes review, and you are guaranteed that you will have an entry in our contest even before it's announced. So if you want to get a head start, go ahead and do that.
Yes, because right now I think we still only have those 2 reviews.
Yeah.
And so. we know we have much more listeners than 2.
Right. I know, it's a pain to go do an iTunes review. I know.
Even just write, hey, it's good, or hey, Brian sucks. Any of them. It's fine.
I enjoy Tim's dulcet tones.
Yes, which I know a lot of people do. So don't pretend you don't know, you don't feel that way. Come on.
All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. We'll see you here next week, guys.
Talk to you later.
I caught a big fat bug right in my spiderweb. And now the spider gets to give the bug a big sting.